It's the Ashley Preston Day sale going on now. Feel the freedom to get your best rest ever with up to $200 off adjustable bases. Plus, you can snooze now, pay later with 0% interest. For a limited time, receive a $300 coupon with the purchase of a free.
If they running their mouth, then they looking for trouble. Ran right up in the knowledge, now they back in the huddle. See, they know we can fight. New content every week. Me and Dr. Clyde keep on bringing the heat. Now they know that we driven, and they know we quitting. Yoshi and the winner, keep on bringing the energy. Unity. See, they know we ain't stopping, and they know they got problems, and they ran out of options. If they know we got a problem, can't let it go unsolved. Bring back learning, Afrocentric history, we see tomorrow. Karma's karma, I say what I say, I hear underwater. Till I see I fall off, then I bring y'all up on note. I'm back up on my Clyde winners, 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 Divine Winters, Clyde Winters, Mind Bender, Clyde Winters, I'm Richard, ride with ya, master teacher, create masters, Clyde Winters, give respect to the elder, Clyde Winters, I know that somebody out there looking for me, yeah, I told you somebody out there looking for me, I think there's somebody out there looking for me, I think there's somebody out there looking for me. Divine winners, Clyde winners, mind bender.
We have to live
Clyde
by
winners,
God.
I'm
We have to
Richard,
live by
ride with
God.
you.
I have
Master
not
teacher,
done wrong.
create
I have
masters,
not
Clyde
robbed.
winners.
I have
Give
not
respect
stolen.
to the elders,
not
Clyde
claimed.
winners.
I have not told lies. I have not stolen food. I was not stolen. I have not fornicated with the fornicator. I have not caused anyone to weep. I have not dissembled. I have not transgressed. I have not discussed secrets. I have brought no lawsuits. I have not wronged the covenant. I have not struck kill. I have not transgressed the law. I have not been hunted. Except when I'm talking about Uncle Tom. I have not made extolling. I have not bragged. I have not cursed. I have not been violent. I have not confounded truth. I have not been impatient. I have not cursed against it.
Somebody out there looking for me.
Love, the love, the love.
I told you somebody out there looking for me. I think there's somebody out there looking for me.
Dr. Winter's legacy is a testament to the power of knowledge and the unyielding spirit of exploration. His impact is felt worldwide, as he shares and enlightens at conferences, symposiums, and collaborative projects. His voice is a beacon in the academic world, challenging, inspiring, and always educating. His journey reminds us that the quest for knowledge is never-ending, and its impact is timeless. Dr. Winters teaches us to challenge the narratives and to learn with an open mind. As he always says, B1 is not a group, it's a lineage. Let his story inspire everybody to pursue knowledge relentlessly and to always seek the truth. Now let us welcome in the grandfather of research, the Trill OG himself, the Honorable Dr. Clyde Winters.
Let the researcher do the research on the line. I don't get a kick out of telling lies. Let the researcher do the research on the line. Spent years studying the times the researcher do the research. Yeah. Black first, with strength we rise. Yeah, let the researcher do the research. Yeah. Uniting truth and kill the lies. Let the researcher do the research. I'll learn to debunk my own craft. Respect is all that I have. Dr. Winters, I was sent here to finish my task, to become the greatest researcher, and that's who I am. Dr. Winters, yeah. Na 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 na. Let the research gotta tell it lies. Let the researcher do the research. Yeah. Spent years studying the tides. Let the researcher do the research. Yeah. Black first, with strength we rise. Let the researcher do the research. Yeah. Uniting truth and kill the lies. Be one, be one, be one. Be one to win this fight.
We have to always
we must
remain
unite.
black
Stand up
first.
for the righteous and let your skin shine bright. Be one, be one, be one, be one. Lessons whispered at night.
What up, though? What up, though? Yeah. Ow! Stop. Listen, I got bit last week. Yes, sirs. I got bit last week by the Holy Ghost. The Holy Ghost said, Negroes, this is it. Dr. Clyde Winters, be proud. You know, the fighters for justice like Sister Shanice, Yoshimad, and others, you had to be proud of the fact that God brought these people into your life. And I am so elated. Yes, elated, not just happy, but elated that God brought these people into my life, because these people have allowed me to know that I was not alone. You just don't know that feeling. You don't know how it feels when you feel that you're out there and you're all by yourself, that you're out there and there's nobody else to bag you up, that you're out there and these people are swinging at you, hitting at you with sticks and hitting at you with all type of stuff and nothing you can do. But then when you know you got sisters and brothers like Sister Shanice out there supporting you, out there pushing forward the message, you know. What I love so much about Sister Shanice is that, you know, I'd ask people to write their own history, tell their own stories. And what Sister Shanice did is that she said, yes, I come from the Caribbean, but what are my other roots? What are my other foundations? And she went out and she examined it, she discussed it, she did the research, and now, you know, she's out there just blazing the field, baby. You guys have to go to YouTube and look up the Sister Shanice show and support Sister Shanice, because this woman, this proud Black woman, is out there, you know, doing for us what needs to be done. But anyway, to get back to the point, is that, you know, thank you for coming today and sharing with me this presentation. You know, today I want to talk about, you know, an aspect of our history that many people, you know, don't really know about. And what it is that a lot of people, they don't know too much about our history, because see, a lot of our history has been hid from us. A lot of our history, in a sense, they don't tell us our history. And the reason they don't tell us our history is because they don't want you to see the connections. They don't want you to see the uniqueness, you see, of the foundational, Black Americans. And that's not to diminish anybody else, but we have our own history. We have our point of views that had to be out there. Karen Van Zandt says, "Good day, sisters and brothers, kings and queens." Yes, yes, thank you, Karen. And so, but the thing is this: is that every civilization has its own uniqueness. Every civilization has its own rules. Every civilization has its own culture, and every civilization has a pace in which the members of that civilization perpetuate and continue their existence. Because see, remember, the only reason that we write history, the only reason we discuss history, the only reason we talk about history is that history allows you to situate yourself. History tells you who you are. History tells you where you came from. And here, history tells you the possibilities, you see. The possibilities, In other words, if you're a people that built a great civilization in former days, then you're still that people. And that means that if you decide, in a sense, that you're going to develop a new civilization today, an even better civilization today than before, you're going to have to do it. Today I'm talking about the Dalits and the blacks in India. Now today, in a sense, many Indians, because of the fact they have straight hair, a lot of times they can cosplay and pretend they're European. And, white people support them because, see, white people, even though you may not believe it, white people are always looking for allies, you see, especially white people in the United States. And the reason that they're looking for allies and searching for allies in the United States is because of the fact is that they know, even though we ignore the fact, they know that foundational Black Americans represent the majority. I repeat, they represent the majority population in this country. Yes, we represent the majority population in this country. That's why they spend a lot of times, in a sense, going out, that's why they spend a lot of time going out inviting immigrants to come to the United States. That's why they try to give immigrants loans. They give them money. They give them all type of issues because the thing is this is that they need to bring people here because we dominate them. We're the dominant people here. Our birth rate is much higher and has always been higher than the European. So then therefore, the European has tried to pretend that they dominate, that they're the majority population in this country. We go along to get along. What did you say? What did you say? What did you say? What I said is this. We go along to get along. We know they're not the majority. Yes. Intuitively, we know they're not the majority, but we go along because the fact is that we built the civilization. We built the greatest civilization that exists on the planet Earth today. If we created this great civilization, wouldn't we be foolish? Wouldn't we be foolish to tear the civilization down that we built? That'd be stupid. That'd be illiterate. You see? That'd be illiterate. So we understand we have to keep this civilization the way it is. That's the only reason we don't tear it down. Yes, there's been times. That's when we had the riots of the 60s. That's when we had the rebellion of 1919. You see? Yes, at times we know that violence is necessary. At times we understand, in a sense, that even as took place between 1918 and 1921, you may have to, in a sense, use weapons, and you may have to go out and violence. Many of you may die, but you still have to set a point. See, that's the thing that many people don't understand about foundational Black Americans, is that foundational Black Americans, yes, Black Americans are willing to die for what we believe in. You see, because the fact is, this is that you're not going to get anywhere if you don't stand up. You're not going to get anywhere if you support each other. Sister Shanice, she made a very interesting comment. Sister Shanice said, "Supporting you all the way, Dr. Clyde, on the continent with internet challenges, but hanging out in there." You got that right. She's over in Africa, spreading the word. She's over in Africa, upping her people and building up her people, And, it's so beautiful. So beautiful. It is so beautiful, but this is nothing new. This is nothing new for the Black race. It's nothing new for us to highlight the greatness of our women. It's nothing new for us to acknowledge the fact that our women have a lot to do with our civilization, that our women can help us to be all that we can be. And sadly, sadly, it's took our women some time to push our scary asses out in the forefront. A lot of times we didn't want to get out there, maybe, somebody kill us or shoot us, but our lady said, damn, get out there, fight for the people, spread the knowledge, give people in a sense an understanding and a place to go. But today we're going to talk about the Dalits. As you know, Dalits are supposed to be the minority people in India. So we're going to get right into that. Let's kind of get started, And Foundation of Black Americans, Dalits, and Egyptians, Often I'm asked the question, and the question I'm asked is, Dr. Winters, why do you say that we're the Egyptians? Why do you say that we're related to the Egyptians? Why do you say that we're the new Egyptians? Okay, well, that's easy to answer. The reason I say that is because of the fact that the ancient Egyptians, they weren't in a sense a stagnant people. The ancient Egyptians, in a sense, they were a people in a sense that was made up of various Black groups. You see, we like to believe, because of the fact that Indians have a little straighter hair than us, East Indians. We like to believe that because these East Indians have a different straight hair, that means that there's no relationship. But there is a relationship. And this relationship goes back to India, because both of us, you see, straight haired Black people, kinky, or what we call nappy haired Black people, we all lived in the same places because that's where we were. Join my Patreon to see the slides. For only $5 a month, you're able to join my Patreon. And my Patreon, I thank you. This show that I'm doing today is based upon the support of my Patreon members, because my Patreon members provide me with the finances so I can go and get the latest articles, get the latest materials, because see, a lot of stuff is behind paywalls. Yes. A lot of stuff is behind paywalls. And because a lot of stuff is behind paywalls, that means in a sense that you have to pay money. Yes, you have to pay money to be able to see these things, And this is kind of sad, but that's the way it is. That is what you have to do. Is that knowledge is not cheap. No, knowledge is not cheap. That's one of the reasons why Europeans were usually the ones who possessed all the knowledge. And the reason that they possessed all the knowledge is because the fact is that they had the monies that they could maybe take a trip to a foreign land. If they didn't take a trip to a foreign land, they had the money, in a sense, to be able to go into the libraries. I used to do, not so much now, but I used to do much of my research I used to do at the University of Chicago, Oriental Institute, and at Northwestern University out in Evanston, Illinois. And see, these universities are private universities. Because they're private universities, they don't have to just let the public in. I repeat, private universities don't have to let the public in. They usually let, in a sense, only in their university libraries, students to their schools. I was able to get into the Oriental Institute mainly because the fact is that the Oriental Institute, it has a program, and it's hooked up with the theology section. So many Black people, many Black men and women go to the University of Chicago to become, preachers or ministers, And because they attend University of Chicago, when they would see me coming into the Oriental Institute or coming into their library, they wouldn't think nothing of it. They just thought I was just a regular student. No, I was not a regular student. I was an infiltrator. Yes. So I was coming in there to get that knowledge that they was hiding from Black people. Yes, they were hiding this knowledge from us, but they was hiding it in plain sight, but not really plain sight. Because see, if you don't go to a university, you can't get in. But that's what you have to do. To get to good research, you have to get into those library stacks. What I mean by that is that every university has a library. And when you can enter into that library, you see. But then they've got elevators in the back of the library that goes up to the different floors. Yeah, yeah, up to the different floors and to the stacks where they have the good books, the good stuff. What I loved about the University of Chicago Library is that the University of Chicago Library, they had a beautiful language department. Back in the day, I used to spend a lot of time, reading foreign languages and stuff, so I could go and get stuff in Chinese, you know, Arabic and stuff like that. I could go and get it and I could read this stuff because they had it in their library. So that was in, now I'm kind of lazy and I haven't kept up with my Arabic, my Chinese and stuff because you know, I'm not really doing the original research like I used to. But I still, in a sense, feel that if you're going to be a really advanced researcher, if you're really going to spread the knowledge about who and what we are, you have to learn various foreign languages because a lot of the information, the good information, is in the foreign languages. Again, so join my Patreon, help support me, help make it possible for me to be able to do these presentations and get the latest information. You can find me on Twitter at Dr. Clyde Winters 8. Right now, you're on my Clyde Winters YouTube channel. On my YouTube channel, I have over 500 videos that deal with almost every aspect of Black history. I've written over 50 books. You can order my books at Amazon.com, get my books. Learn who you are. Learn where you came from. Learn why it's important to know who, what, and where we are. B1 is Black first. Yes, yes, yes. In many languages, when you look up the ancient meaning of the word Black, you find that Black is not only associated sometimes with a race or with a color, Black is also associated with brilliant. Yes, 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 yes. The word Black in many languages, blah, is associated with brilliance. So when you're B1, you're Black first, but when you're B1, you're brilliant first. B1, baby, put B1 in the chat. Not many of you put B1 in the chat. We're B1. We're Black first. We're brilliant first. We are Black and we are brilliant. Yes, that's who we are. What is FBA? Here you can see, some, foundational Black Americans, and you can see me with my old man, no bear. That's my daddy-o. I used to call him daddy-o back in the day. Don't ask me why. I don't know. But that's my father. Zenoba Winters. And this man made me all that I am today. Because this man, he told me, he said, Clyde, he said, a Black man don't run. You don't run. You don't run from your family. You run to your family. You take care of your women. You take care of your children. This is what my father taught me. See, this is what my father taught me. In a day and in an age when, you haven't never, don't get mad at me, family. You haven't never, because of the influence of slavery, you have never had to marry a Black woman to live with her, to shack up with her, and to make babies with her. You didn't have to marry them. You didn't have to marry them, you see, because the whole point is this is that they could always say they were married in spirit or married in love. But my father, he married my mom, and he had us all legitimate. None of us are bastards. And nothing wrong with being a bastard. But the thing is, this is it. I respect my old man because he always taught me not to flee. You see, that's one of the biggest problems for many Black people around the world. We're always fleeing. We're either fleeing our condition or we're fleeing our responsibility. But my father taught me in the sense that you don't flee. You be a man. You be a man, because see, you be a man. And how do you be a man? You be a man because you be responsible. So my old man Zenoba told me, you be a man. You go forward. FBA is not a group. FBA is not an organization. FBA is a lineage. A lineage is lineal descent from an ancestor, ancestral pedigree. As a result, we are descendants of the Black Europeans, the sub-Saharan Africans, and Aboriginal Blacks who built the United States. Yes, 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 yes. All of these influences went through an ethnogenesis. And as the result of this ethnogenesis came FBA, Foundational Black Americans. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about India. These are some of the books I've written on India, on Indian history and Indian civilization. I've always kind of I've always kind of been interested in Indian civilization because of the fact I early, did research on the language, and I saw that Tamil, was related to Mandy. And since Tamil was related to Mandy, they had a genetic relationship or a family relationship. That kind of made me have a lot of interest. Plus, I found that Tamil was related to many of the languages spoken in Central Asia, such as the Kushana language, which they call in America Tacharian. But anyway, I found these relationships. So I brought it together. If you want to read some of my books on my research with the Dravidians, get my book, The Dravidian Connection. Get my book, Ancient History of Tamils in Central Asia. My book, Ancient History of Tamils in Central Asia, I think is a very important book because it shows the spread of Tamil out of India into Central Asia and from Central Asia into Europe and other parts of the world, and eventually all the way to ancient Egypt. So get my book, Ancient History of Tamils in Central Asia. I deciphered the Indus Valley writing back in the 1980s, even though they say it's undeciphered. They know I deciphered it, but since I'm not white, they don't want to give me credit for it. But if you want to find out about my decipherment of the Indus Valley writing, get my book. Dravidian Tamil is the language of the Indus writing. Many people, in a sense, are really interested in Tamili. That's the ancient Tamil that was spoken throughout southern India and in Central Asia. And if you want to find out about that, get my book, An Unofficial History of Dravidian Writing. In this book, I talk about the hundreds, thousands, really. But I talk about many of the inscriptions that the Dravidians have left across much of Central Asia. And you'll understand, in a sense, how this evolved into the what we call the Indus Valley writing. Then my latest book is Origin, Tamil, and Telugu of South India. Again, I discuss the origin of these people, and I point out that the Tamil and Telugu, their traditions, their literature, always points back to an Egyptian origin, because they didn't always live in what we call India today. They came from Africa. If you want to find out about all the Black civilizations, get my book, The World History of the Black Race. The World History of the Black Race is a survey book. It's a book that everybody should have in their home, because if you've got this book in your home, it'll give you an easy reference source to the various Black civilizations in the ancient world. So if you want to have, in a sense, a table book that can really provide you with information about who and what we are, get my book. The world history of the Black race. Every Black person, every Black family should have that in their library. They should have that on their kitchen. In their living room table where they keep some of their other picture books, so that people will know our great history and our great ancestry. And then, if you want to understand, in a sense, the relationship between the Nile Valley and, in a sense, the various people in Africa, get my book, Nile Valley History and the Rig Veda. And Kudu, he wrote me an email the other day, and he was just telling me that he's completing a lot of my books. And what I like about Kudu is that he's a teacher in New York, and hopefully he's taking some of this information, and he's making his lectures or his discussions with his students much more poignant and more influential, because he's using real resources to make his teaching really stick, because see, a lot of Black people, they don't understand our beautiful, significant history, you see. And not just our history in Africa or our history in America. You should be well-rounded. And if you really want to be, a student of Black people, you should know about our history all over the world. And these books discuss. I've also written books on Blacks in China and all that type of stuff. And I show the relationships, especially the influence of what's called the Kunta clan. Many of you back in the day when they had roots, and they talked about Kunta Kinte. And Kunta that was the name of Kunta Kinte, who was a slave, in a sense, who was an enslaved person in North America. But the Kunta clan is a very prominent clan in the Mandi society. So again, get these books so you can learn about my research into the Tamil in Central Asia in my book, The Dravidian Connection. Ancient History of Tamils in Central Asia. Dravidian Tamil is the language of the Indus Valley writing. An unofficial history of Dravidian writing. Origin, Tamil, and Telugu of South India. Now Valley History and the Rigveda. And of course, every home should have this book so they'll know about Black people around the world is The World History of the Black Race. Make sure you get those books. At least The World History of the Black Race. Have this on your home, have it available so everybody will know our history. Black people can be based on cultural history and land. For example, the Mexica. The people of the Aztecs were called Mexica. And Mexica, do you know what that means? Mexica means lords of the black land. They lived in Mexico. They have a dynamic history, and these are what we call the Aztecs. The earliest people to rule in Mexico were the Xi people. Xi. That's X-I, but the X in Spanish is pronounced like a sh. So it's Xi. So the Xi people, that's the name of the Olmec people, you see. Then we have the Li Men. Li Men means the blackheads. And these were the people the blackheads of the black people. And this was the name of the people who lived in China. And the dynastic history of China talks about the fact that that Chinese civilization was founded by the Li Men, or the black people. Then Kemet, Kemu, it means the black people, the black land of Egypt, and this is ancient Egyptian culture. The Assyrians, they call themselves Salmakakadi, the black people. And this is what they call themselves. And then the Sumerians, they call themselves Sagiga, black people, Sumer Akkad. So when I tell you that there's nothing wrong with calling yourself FBA, Foundation of Black Americans, this comes from a long tradition of black civilizations using the term black in their ethnic identity, using the term black as a national signifier of who they were. You see? Li Men, the black people. Kamet, Kamiu, the black people in Egypt. Salmakakadi, the black people in Assyria. Sagiga, the black people in Sumer. FBA, the black people in America. Do you see? Black people can be B1 based on culture, history, and land. Stop it. Stop it. Stop being ashamed of who and what you are. In the African origin civilization, Sheikh Anta Diop, he has many beautiful, situations where he discusses our black origin. He explains why the Egyptians called themselves black. He explains in a sense is that Kemet meant black, ebony, etc. And this is why you understand in a sense that this book was so important. What I hate today is that many of the young people today, they call themselves, writing or talking about black history, and they haven't even read the works of the great researchers. They haven't read any of Anta Diop's work. You see? They haven't read my books. And so then, if you haven't read the works of Sheikh Anta Diop, Armin van Sertima, then how can you even claim that you know what you're talking about? And see, but no, they hear tidbits, they hear people on the internet say this, or people on the internet say that. Then they take whatever these people say as being the truth when it's not. Come at, learn these things. A beautiful book is Parenthèse génétique de l'Égyptien pharaonique et des langues négro-africaines. This is a book, Parent Génétique de l'Égyptien. It's a very good book. It's in French. You see, and luckily, when I was in high school, I wanted to study French. I wanted to study French at first because it was the language l'amour, the language of love. I was going to be, I was going to rap to, how when you're kind of in high school, you're a little silly. I was going to rap to the girls in French. I was going to be the French, the Frenchman, the language of love. But then I found that it was good that I did, because when I began to do research into African history, I found out that one of the greatest, you know, Afrocentric historians was Sheikh Anta Diop, and Sheikh Anta Diop, he wrote his works in French, and so by me being able to read French, then I was able, in a sense, to get those gems, get those historical gems, get that knowledge, because I could read his books. That's why I tell you, learn the language so you understand this. The one of the most important books in learning how to really understand the ancient world back in the day was a book called The People of Ancient Egypt and the Deciphering of Meroitic Script. This was a very important book. And this was a very important book. It was a book written as part of the general history of Africa. And what made this book so important is that this book gave me insight into how I could possibly read the Meroitic Script. It also, for the first time, put in English, the works of Anta Diop, so that many English speakers could see what great work was being done by Professor Diop at this time. We could understand what Kemet meant. We could understand why all the gods of ancient Egypt were black, and why they even called themselves black. And this was a momentous occasion to be able to read these materials. I'm telling you, if you really want to understand who you are, where you come from, you have to learn these books. I'm not saying, in a sense, that your whole emphasis should be on Africa, because I'm not an African. I'm an FBA. But even though I'm an FBA, I still need to know, the heritages and the histories of Black people in other locations, so I will not be lost. So I will not be, in a sense, confused. The General History of Africa too. This is a very beautiful book, and this book, in a sense, is a book that I think that it's in paperback now, and everybody should get this. It's an article in there by Sheikh Anta Diop, and what he wrote is this: more than 150,000 years ago, beings morphologically identical with the man of today were living in the region of the Great Lakes at the sources of the Nile and nowhere else. It means that the whole human race had its origin, just as the ancients had guessed, at the foot of the mountains of the moon. Against all expectations and defiance of recent hypothesis, it was from this place that men moved out to the people, the rest of the world. Yes, yes, yes. From these two facts of capital importance result A, of necessity, the earliest men were ethnically homogeneous and Negroid. Glogger's law, which would also appear to be applicable to human beings, lays it down that warm-blooded animals evolving in a warm, humid climate will secrete a black pigment, eumelanin. Hence, if mankind originated in the tropics around the latitude of the Great Lakes, he was bound to have brown pigmentation from the start, and it was by differentiation in other climates that the original stock later split into different races. There are only two routes available by which these early men could move out to people the other continents, namely the Sahara and the Nile Valley. You see, yes, 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 yes. Understand our origins. Understand, in a sense, that your history is not just a history of yesterday. Your history goes back thousands of years. The Egyptians, that's why they call themselves black. They're coming true, the black people, That's why they made all their gods black. Ceres was black. Isis was black. Yes, yes. Everybody was black because they understood that it was from the Cam, the black people, that in a sense began civilization, led to the founders of the world. Yes, yes, yes. Sure, we're not black like the color black. Most of the time we're brown, we're red, sometimes we're even red bone. Yes, yes, yes. We're light skinned, we come in varied colors. But in a sense, we chose, in a sense, the word black to identify ourselves. Why, Dr. Winters, would you want to choose black? We chose black because we understood two things. We understand in the sense that God is represented by the sun, because it's the sun that gives us light. But at the same time, in a sense, outside of the reach of the sun, there's nothing but darkness or blackness. So we come from this blackness. Yes, yes. Adamu, the first man, he was black. The first woman, Eve, she was black. Yes, yes, yes. But it was a red black, the red brown. That's who we are. Understand, understand. Don't get it twisted. Two principal minorities in the United States and India. The two main minorities in the United States and India are foundational Black American and the Dalits, formerly known as the Untouchables of India. W.E.B. Du Bois in Africa and the World, and V.T. Rajesh Kishore in Dalits, the Black Untouchables of India, and the Dalit Bishop Reverend Azariah have linked African Americans and East Indians to an African origin. Yes, yes, yes. These researchers, Rajshekar, the B.B. Du Bois, these people, in a sense, have been able to show how, that the East Indians came from Africa. Yes, Africa, But we know that in East India, in India, they have the caste system, the Brahmin at the top, the Kshatriya, the warrior class, the Vaishya, the Shudra was supposed to be the black people, the tradesmen, and then in a sense, an even lower class was the Dalits. But they are always, in a sense, because of the fact that as soon as we came into contact with the Caucasian or lighter skinned people, they always wanted to put the black man down because of the jealousy, the envy. Although these minorities are separated by thousands of miles, both ethnic groups locate their origins in Africa and see Egyptian civilization as part of their ethnic heritage. Who are these groups? FBA and also East Indians. This idea of Egyptian heritage is part of the liberation history curriculum taught in their schools. Afro-Americans have been deeply interested in the study of ancient world history and the role of blacks in this history. Many foundational Black Americans believe that writing ancient history is a political act. Yes, a political act. Carter G. Woodson in The Miseducation of the Negro observed, and I quote, "The oppressor, play up before the Negro, then his crimes and shortcomings. Let him learn to admire the Hebrew, the Greek, the Latin, and the Teuton. Lead the Negro to detest the men of African blood, to hate himself." Yes, yes, yes. That's what they want you to do. They want you to hate yourself because they want you to feel inferior. They want you to believe that everything great came from somebody who was white. But this is false. These scholars see the writing of ancient Black history as an antidote to white supremacy. Carter G. Woodson in The Miseducation of the Negro also wrote this, I quote, "He teaches the Negro that he has no worth while past, and that his race has done nothing significant since the beginning of time, and that there is no evidence that he ever achieved anything great. The education of the Negro then must be carefully directed, lest the race may waste time trying to do the impossible." Yes, that's what they want you to do. They don't want you to learn their real history. Do you think they really like the fact, I'm talking about the powers that be, do you think they really like the fact that Dr. Winters, me, comes on here every Thursday talking about our real, actual history? They don't want you to know your actual history. See? They don't want you to know your actual history. Even though many of the Black people who was writing our history, they refused to acknowledge the fact that they had an Indian heritage. They had an Aboriginal heritage. But instead of them talking about their Aboriginal heritage, they said, oh, Africa, Africa, Africa. There's nothing wrong with Africa. Africa is our ancestral home, but our heritage is here, right here, North America. Yeah, baby, yeah, baby. This is where our heritage lies. Again, get my books if you want to find out more about ancient innocence, relations between the Tamilians in East India and African people. Get my book, The Dravidian Connection. Get my book, Ancient History of Tamils in Central Asia. Get my book, Dravidian Tamils, The Language of the Indus Valley Writing. Get my book, An Unofficial History of Dravidian Writing. My book, Unofficial History of Dravidian Writing. I think that many people who are interested in epigraphy is a study of writing. I think you really like it because I have a lot of the bowl, the inscribed bowls, and other artifacts from South India that I discuss in that book. So if you're interested in epigraphy, if you're interested in Tamili, which was the writing of Tamil in ancient times, you might want to get this book, An Unofficial History of Dravidian Writing, and then get my book, Nile Valley History in the Riviera, where I talk about, in a sense, the influence of the Nile Valley on Indian civilization, and of course, my book, The World History of the Black Race, where you learn about every Black civilization. The Atlantic slave trade played an important role in how Afro-Americans, or FBA, view the development of their history curriculum. This historical experience led to the African Holocaust, in which Du Bois claims, and I repeat, 100 million blacks died crossing the Atlantic Ocean during the Middle Passage, or on slave plantations throughout the Americas. 100 million black people died crossing the Atlantic Ocean. Many of them were just thrown into the sea, or they just died because of diseases or ailments when they were on those boats. The African origin and foundation of Black Americans led to a desire among many members of this population an understanding about their African homeland. They also wanted to know about the history of their people in the United States. Some East Indian slaves were Lascars, Indian sailors of the Dutch East India Company, while other slaves were captured in slave raids in India and sold into chattel slave. You didn't know that, did you? You didn't know that, did you? You didn't know that there were many East Africans, many East Indians sold as slaves? Yes. On many of your plantations in North America, they had East Indian slaves, people that they kidnapped, because, see, the American slaver, they didn't always want to follow the British because the British wouldn't let them, in a sense, purchase slaves at many of their forts. So the American slavers had to go around to East Africa and all the way to India to kidnap black people and put them into slavery, that's why sometimes, if you notice, a lot of black people kind of have an Oriental face, or they might have, in a sense, Oriental, phenotypical features, and that comes from that history, or that relationship. The East Indian slaves were situated in Jamestown, Virginia. In 1622, there is a report of an East Indian slave or servant of Captain George Menifee. Okay, here's a Richmond County, July 14th. Let me read this. This is it says, runaway about the 20th of May left an East India Indian named Thomas Greenwich. He is a well-made fellow, about 5'4" high, wears his own hair, which is long and black, has a thin visage, a very fly look, and remarkable set of fine white teeth. A reward of 40 shillings will be paid to the person who delivers him to the subscriber, besides what the law allows. So again, in a sense, you can see that there were many East Indian slaves. See, you didn't know that. You didn't know that, did you? You didn't know that. They told you, and every week and every day they tell you, all black people in America came from Africa. All black people in America, FBA, are all Africans. No. That's just only one aspect of our history. We are FBA, foundational Black Americans. We went through an ethnogenesis of various groups that lived here to produce FBA, foundational Black Americans. Richmond County, 6 February 17056, petition of Simbo, an East Indian servant, to Jono Lloyd Esquire for his freedom. Petition of Muda, an East Indian servant, to Captain Thomas Beale, surviving executor of Mr. William Coast and deceased, for his freedom. Ordering a judge that said Muda be free. Ordering a judge that said Simbo be free. You see, it was, this is 1775, 1776. See? Don't get it twisted. Don't get it twisted. The history of slavery in North America is much more complicated than what you've been taught. The history of slavery in America entailed not only, in a sense, so-called West African people, but it was a large number of East Indians and East Africans that were brought to the Americas as slaves. Westmoreland County, Maine, 1708. Will, an East India Indian, late a supposed slave to Mr. Danley Neal, by his petition to this court, setting forth that sometime in the year 1689, being fortunately trapped and out of his native country in the East Indies, and thence transported to England, and soon after brought into this country, and sold as a slave to Mr. Christopher Neal, deceased father of his said present master, and that he had ever since faithfully served the said Christopher and Daniel, notwithstanding which the said Daniel, though often denied him his freedom. And this said Daniel, being summoned to answer the said complaint, appeared, and both parties submitted the whole matter of the complaint to the court. All which being maturely and fully heard, is considered by this court that the said Will ought not to have been sold as a slave, and that he is a freeman. Yes. We had to. You had to go to court. See, these people kidnapping people in India. Yes. Many of you out there, yes. Many of you out there have East Indian, Malagasy heritages, yes. Because all the slaves didn't come from West Africa. You didn't know that, though, and nobody's going to tell you but me, hey. Dr. Winters, because I want you to know our true history. I want to know who we are and where we came from. After slavery, Americans began to write history and establish their own history curriculum. This curriculum was based on the ancient model of history. This ancient model of history was based on references to Africans and Black people in the classical literature and the Bible, They began, in a sense, to have distinguished colored men. Here we see a lot of them, Frederick Douglass in the middle, you see. Think about that. Here we see distinguished colored men. We know Frederick Douglass was born a slave, and yet we didn't let where we came from hold us back. We didn't let where we came from hold us back, but that's what they're trying to do to our children. That's what they've done to you. That's what they've done to me. They try to make us feel that we cannot go any further than they allow us. That's a lie. We can go farther than they want us to go if we fight and if we try and put our trust in God Almighty. Because granted, what is critical race theory? Critical race theory number one, white people hate you. Critical race theory number two, white people want to kill you. Critical race theory number three, white people establish a system of racism, a system in which they've established a race in which they're going to win. But even though they hate us, even though they want to kill us, even though they establish a system in which they want to win, look at how we've been able to overcome that system. Look at how we've been able to make progress. Look at how we've been able, in a sense, to live. We don't live in those slave hollows. We don't live in those slave plantations. We don't live, in a sense, in despotic slums anymore. Why don't we live in those places? Why don't we shit in the street? We don't shit in the street because we fought to be who and what we are. We fought to be ourselves. We fought to have our own way of life. Martin Delaney, one of our greatest fighters, and he was colonel in the Civil War, because a lot of times, in a sense, they tell you the Civil War, the white man. Freedom, no. During the Civil War, Black people fought, you see, and Black people, in a sense, fought in the Civil War. Over 200,000 fought in the Civil War. And when the Union was losing, 200,000 Black people were allowed to join the Union Army, and everything turned around. They began to defeat the Confederates. You see, Martin Delany wrote. He was a military officer. Martin Delany wrote, "Our elevation must be the result of self-efforts and work of our own hands. No other human power can accomplish it. If we but determine it, so it will be so." Let me repeat that. If we but determine it, shall be so, it will be so. Isn't that amazing? As I told you before, critical race theory says white people hate us. Critical race theory says white people want to kill us. Critical race theory says white people create a system of racism to make sure that we can never go ahead and we can never be progressive. But Martin Delany told us that if we but determine it shall be so, it will be so. In other words, in a sense, if you fight for your rights, you see, if you fight for your rights, you're going to be able to be successful. That's what made a lot of people mad. That's what got the whole Democratic Party discombobulated. They discombobulated because in 2024, FBA decided, I think I'll sit on the couch. I'm not going to vote, period. And these people are all upset. They don't know what to do. They want to have a war. They want to have a civil war. But they can't have a civil war because we won't choose a side. We don't give a damn about the Democratic Party or the Republican Party because we know none of them have done anything to set us free. We know none of them have done anything to give us economic resources to be just as wealthy, just as successful as our white counterparts. But not only do we know that, we acknowledge it, we accept it. And because we acknowledge it, because we accept it, that is really scary for a lot of people. In the Old Testament, the blacks are recognized as the sons of Ham. According to the Old Testament narrative found in the book of Genesis, the children of Ham are alleged to be the founders of all the ancient civilizations, including Cush, the Tussadian Sea group covered with Nubia and the Sudan, the Sumerians of Mesopotamia and the Elamites of Iran, Mizraim, the founder of the Egyptians, Put, the civilizations of ancient Ethiopia, South Arabia, and Canaan, the early Canaanites and Hadeans of ancient Palestine. Yes. The Bible makes it clear that all civilization was founded upon black people. Yes, black people like you, black people like me, black people like us. By the late 19th century, foundational Black American researchers began to write textbooks on foundational Black American or Afro-American history. In these textbooks, Afro-American educators not only discussed the history of Africans in the USA and Africa, they also discussed the ancient civilizations founded by blacks in Egypt and Mesopotamia. The pedagogy for ancient Africological research was well established by the end of the 19th century by African American researchers well versed in the classical languages and knowledge of Greek and Latin. Cornish and Rushworth in the Freedom Journal were the first African Americans to discuss and explain the ancient model of history. By 1883, Africological researchers began to publish books on African history. C.W. Williams wrote the first textbook on African American history in 1883. In the history of the Negro race in America, Dr. Williams provided the schema for all future Africological history texts. Think about that. Think about that. You got people today in African countries, they don't even write their history of their own damn countries. They don't even write the history of their individual tribes. Although they don't write the history of their countries, although they don't write the history of their tribe, you can see as early as 1883, almost 200 years ago. Yes. Almost 200 years ago, we was writing our history. We were writing our history. Pauline E. Hopkins added further articulation of the ancient history of Black people in the application of these paradigms and understanding the role of blacks in Egypt. Hopkins provides further confirmation of the role of blacks in Southeast Asia and expanded the scope of Africological research into China. Yes, you can look. This is very important. When I began this whole discussion, I brought up Sister Shanice, didn't I? I brought up the fact that Sister Shanice has her own YouTube channel, and she's written some very good books on blacks, especially black Anglo-Saxons. She's written some wonderful books, you see. But here we see Pauline E. Hopkins, and we can see that what Sister Shanice is doing is nothing new for black women. Black women have always been interested in our history. Black women have been writing our history, and just like Pauline E. Hopkins, she has never tried to just narrow. We have never tried to just narrow our history just to the USA. We've been, in a sense, wanting to show that black people had a history not only here, but all over the world, throughout the world. See, this is what makes the research of Pauline E. Hopkins and others so important. Hadi and Zakaska was the first civilization in Anatolia. Here, look at these. Here's some pictures. You can see these. Look at their phenotype. You can see they wore afros. You can see the afros they wore. You can see their noses. You can see that. You can see that these were black people, the Hadians, the Kaska, the first civilization in Anatolia. They were like you. They were like me. Yes. Big white noses. Kinky hair. Afro. Well, you couldn't tell. You could. Well, I guess if you look at me today, you say, damn, Dr. Winters, what are you talking about? You ain't got no hair. That's right. I don't have any hair today, but I used to have an afro. Yes, I used to have an afro. The authors of the Africological textbooks reported the latest archaeological and anthropological findings of their day. The archaeological findings reported in these textbooks added precision to their analysis of the classical and Old Testament literature. Because remember, the first thing we read that showed that black people built ancient civilization was, in a sense, what? The Bible, and reading the classical literature. But see, what they did is that these people, because many of the brothers who in the 19th century, because many of them had went to school, and Latin used to be taught in high school, and then Greek, and so many of these brothers already had learned Greek and Latin, in high school and other places. So naturally, they could read the Latin inscriptions and the Greek or Roman inscriptions. And so this is how they was able, in a sense, to develop the ancient model of history and understand the role of black people in ancient history. W. Du Bois is also considered a content specialist when writing the Afro-American history curriculum. This is an early picture of W. Du Bois. His major contributions to this area were his books, The Negro and The World in Africa. In these books, Egypt's African heritage was explained and discussed in detail. Leo Hansberry, was primarily interested in the classical references to blacks in Egypt and elsewhere. Leo Hansberry, he was a professor at Howard University. Many people ignored his research, but he was one of the few people he had even studied in Germany. He had studied the Meroitic and other civilizations in Germany. And so he's a very well-grounded scholar in African studies, and and especially his interpretation of the classical literature. It is in the classical literature which linked Africans and East Indians. Yes. In many parts of the United States, up until the desegregation of American schools in 1954, black people attended schools which were segregated. In these schools, Afro-American school administrators used a history curriculum that included Afro-American and African history. You didn't know that, did you? That before in a sense, before they desegregated our schools, black people were going to school learning about their history in America, learning about our history in Africa. And they were using books written by black researchers, black scholars, and black teachers, see? But when we desegregated the schools, what did they do? Oh, they took those textbooks out and then they brought in textbooks. They glorified Europeans, glorified the white man, because they wanted to, in a sense, have us lose confidence and understanding and respect in our possibilities, our abilities. You see, this was deliberate. Up until the 1950s, the most popular Afro-American history text used in public Afro-American schools was The Negro and Our History. The Negro in Our History was written by Carter G. Woodson. Carter G. Woodson founded the Journal of Negro History. And then the Negro in Our History, Carter G. Woodson discussed Egypt as a black African nation. You know, back in the day, there was a magazine called the Dalit Voice. And I wrote an article for this back in 1985. And the article was called The African Origin of the Glorious Dalits, And see, there are 150 million Dalits in India. They share with Afro-Americans a history of segregation and slavery. In the past, Dalits were called outcasts or untouchables. Mahatma Gandhi called them Harijans, children of God. The term Dalit means crushed and broken. In other words, they like to feel in the sense that the black people in India have been crushed and broken, because this makes many people feel good, because it makes these people feel that they're superior to the Dalits. The Dalit history curriculum is founded on research linking Dravidian speakers to Africa. The Africological and genetic evidence suggests that the Dravidians may have originated in Africa. See Sergeant B's Guinea's Dad, the Indian. And this was published in 1982. This book, The Dalit, The Black Untouchables of V.T. Shikar, is very interesting. And in this book, it's very important because, in this book, FBA researchers are very insecure and jealous. I used to reach out to other FBA researchers and even help them with their research. In return, they take your work and they fail to cite your help. Back in 1980, I gave a lecture at Compton College in LA and gave Runoko Rashidi some of my research on blacks in Asia. He took the research, wrote a book, and has made a name for himself for over 30 years off my research, while never even mentioning where he got his research. Rashidi next used my name to hook up with the Dalits of Asia. Yes. He used in a sense my name to be able to write his books and see. But people say, oh, Runoko Rashidi, he was a great old person. But no, Runoko Rashidi and everything he wrote about was based on my damn work. This is what he wrote in his book. In the preface to his third edition, he said, and I quote, "It all began with Clyde Ahmed Winter's guest editorial of September 16, 1985, African Origin of the Glorious Dalits, which opened the eyes of the entire African American population and brought them close to us. As a result, Runoko Rashidi came rushing to India and inaugurated the first All-Indian Dalit Writers Conference at Hyderabad." So you can see, this man, okay, I'm not saying that Runoko wasn't an okay person, but Runoko wrote on my back like a lot of other people. And although he wrote on my back, he used my research and he in a sense used my name to get to this position. Sadly, this brother never, ever mentioned till the day he died the fact that he got his research from me. But again, that's the way it is with some people. But see, I don't mind bringing up other people. I don't mind sharing, in a sense, the fact that I made discoveries and they made discoveries too. But it's people like that should be ashamed of themselves. We should always be playing up and promoting other black people who helped us, who established the research that we conduct. Rashidi was a great friend of the Dalits. Runoko Rashidi inaugurated the first All-India Dalit Writers Conference in Hyderabad, and he was, welcomed by the Kerala Dalit Panthers. But again, Runoko never mentioned the fact where he got his shit from. He never mentioned the fact that he was riding off my back. But that's the sad thing about black people. A lot of black people, we don't want to be helping each other. We don't want to, in a sense, play up other people and stuff. I know that's one of the reasons why I think that, Yoshima and a couple other people, they don't like the fact that Tariq Nasheed, he brings up a lot of my research, but he always says that the research came from Ivan Van Sertima, and he knows that Ivan Van Sertima didn't do the shit he's talking about. It was done by Clive Winters. But hey, that's another story. But that's the way people are, you see? People, to establish themselves, they will sometimes ignore the reality, but I don't care, because I'm here to teach you our real history. I'm here to help you to understand where we came from and where we can go. The Dravidian people. A major Dalit leader is VT Rajishkar. Rajishkar accepts the African origin of the Dalits, you see. Herodotus wrote, that's the great historian. The Eastern Ethiopians, that's the people of India. The Eastern Ethiopians differ in nothing from the other Ethiopians save in their language and the character of their hair. For the Eastern Ethiopians have straight hair, while they of Libya are more woolly haired than any other people in the world. Yes, yes, yes. The Dalits believe their ancestors originated in the Sudan. They believe that from the Sudan they migrated to the Indus Valley. They see their relationship to Egypt and the Sudan as a link to Afro-Americans and Africans. This link, they believe, allows them to have allies outside of India, where they are harassed and discriminated against. Yes, yes, yes. That's why we have books like the Desi or Egvira. See, these books, in a sense, show this relationship. These books were written by Dr. Shinaran Navasan. Many researchers have proved that the Dravidians are related to the C group of Nubia, given the fact that both groups used a common black and red pottery look on the other page. If you look on the right-hand side, you see Nubian black and red pottery right up at that top picture on the right-hand side. But then you see South Indian black and red pottery. Yes, yes. The same black and red pottery that was made by black people in Nubia was also made by black people in India. You know, Singh made it clear that he believes that the black and red ware radiated from Nubia to Mesopotamia and Iran southward into India. Yes, yes. The Dalits identify with their African ancestry. In addition, the Dalits are enamored with Afro-Americans. The Dalits idealized the Black Panther Party, and in 1972, the Dalit Black Panther Party was founded in Bombay, India. The key element in Afro-American understandings of Egypt comes from the Black Church. The Black Church has been a constant source of healing and comfort for many foundational Black Americans. It was here that Black children through Sunday school were taught that the Egyptians were Black Africans and descendants of Ham. Yes, yes. The Black Church was our first source. That was where I learned. That's where I learned that the Egyptians were Black. That gave me all the understanding I needed. So when I went to school, they gave me these books talking about the Egyptians were white. I said, "That's you. Forget you." I knew the ancient Egyptians were Black. Since Blacks learned in church that Ham was the father of the Negro African people, including Egyptians, kept the popular idea among foundational Black Americans that the Egyptians were Blacks for the last 100 years. Yes, yes, yes. You can't tell us that stuff that they weren't Black, because we knew it was true. The Dalits and foundational Black Americans do not look at Egypt solely as a major civilization. They see Egypt as a symbol of the greatest of their ancestral civilizations. Egypt to the Dalits and FBA gives them pride in their heritage and recognition that they have not always been poor. It also gives foundational Black Americans and Dalits hope that one day they will experience true citizenship without the status of being recognized as different by the dominant cultural groups in India and the United States. Yes, yes, yes. Join my Patreon to see the slides. After this presentation, I'm going to put these slides and my other slides on my Patreon channel. Join my Patreon. It's only $5. It's only $5 a month. That's less than you spend on coffee every day. This is only $5 a month. Join my Patreon. Please be a member of my Patreon. Help support me in my research. Help support me by giving me the funds to buy the latest books and to get articles and information that are hidden behind paywalls. Okay, you're going to find out some of my work at Twitter at Dr. Clyde Winters 8. And again, this is my YouTube channel. Don't just come here every Thursday to hear me talk about Black history. Check out one of my over 500 videos on this channel. You see, again, if you want to find out more about the history of Black Dravidians, what you want to do is you want to get these books. Yes, yes, yes. You want to get these books, because by getting these books, what you're going to be able to do is you're going to be able, in a sense, to know your history. You're going to be able, in a sense, to understand the things that we've done and how important this history is, you see. But a lot of times, in a sense, we forget this. A lot of times we forget that that this is very important, and that there is hope. See, but the only hope that we can have is the hope, in a sense, and the recognition that these books are out there, the knowledge is out there. Buy these books, buy these books. Okay. Okay. Natty says, "What's up, Dr. Winters? Everything is cool. What about with you?" You know. Curtis Penn says, "Yeah, he lied and told me he didn't know you. About Renoku Rashidi. Okay. Yeah, he lied and told me he didn't know you and unfriended me on Facebook because I asked his opinion of our work and shaking my head real fast. Yeah, because see, Curtis Penn, let me explain to you. Curtis Penn, this brother, Curtis Penn, what Curtis Penn did is that he was the first person to recognize these inscriptions on the Sphinx. And these inscriptions tell us a very important history. That's why I really love, Curtis Penn and the research that he gave us. Because, see, but again, as he said, a lot of people are just like that, And it's just really sad, And Curtis Penn said, so the hate was real with Rashidi for you, doctor. First hand knowledge. No hearsay, shaking my head. Huh? Well, I didn't know he hated me. We did a presentation it wasn't a presentation. I guess it was kind of like a thing. We did something at the Dusabo Museum back before he died. But the main thing is that the only thing about him is that he made a mistake. He made a mistake and he made a mistake and he took the cure. We didn't know back then that if you took the cure to the virus, you shouldn't fly. No, you shouldn't fly. If you take the cure to the virus, you shouldn't fly. But he took the cure to the virus, and then he took a plane and he died. But the thing is that I'm so used to people always being jealous, so I don't give a damn. But but I'm still here and I'm still fighting. What did Karen says? What did she say? Karen says that's why a lot of people don't want to share their knowledge. We have to be selective, but sometimes that doesn't pan out. Backstabbing is real. Yeah, backstabbing is real, and some people don't want to show their knowledge. But the thing is this: I don't mind showing it because see, a lot of my research is already out there. I already wrote the articles. I wrote the articles. I published the articles in the international referee journals. And I don't mind if people in a sense see it or even comment on it. Black Lauren said, "Thank you for being a great supporter, Black Lauren. You're my stuff a lot." Yes, very real, Karen Vincent. That is true, and that's the whole point because, like Karen said, that's why a lot of people don't want to share their knowledge. We have to be selective, but sometimes that doesn't pan out. Backstabbing is real true, and sometimes when you have the knowledge, nobody ever learns it. When nobody ever learns it, the knowledge was worthless because see, if the knowledge isn't being used by the people, if the knowledge isn't being used by the people in a sense to further their understanding of the world, then the knowledge is useless. Knowledge has to be shared. You see, and that's a very important thing, But Karen, I thank you for coming. And Karen, as you said, another Thursday spent getting Black knowledge. Yes, and I'm so happy that you came and shared this with us, Curtis, in a sense. Wow, shaking my head, Curtis Penn. Wow, brother. That research you did on the Sphinx, and some of you guys can look that up. The research you did on the Sphinx it's so great. It's so wonderful, Blanky L. Bay, thank you for the Cash App. Thank you for sending me, help. Cash App can help too. But again, family, that we have to understand is that it's only through doing the research. It's only in a sense by understanding on who you are, looking at our history, you can do this. I didn't plan on really teaching my class again, but I'm teaching my class again. I'm teaching my research class, and my research class is on Tuesdays. It's on Tuesdays. If you want to join my research class, go to OMEG98 or Clyde Winters at gumroad.com. Go to gumroad.com and you can join my class. I will my research class is $599. But this $599, it pays for 15 weeks. 15 weeks of study. That's over in a sense, that's over 30 hours. That's 30 hours. When I do consulting work for school districts, I charge, $60 an hour. And that's kind of cheap. And I only charge $60 an hour. But do you know that at $60 an hour, let's look at that. 60 times 30 hours, that equals $1,800. 60 times 30 equals 1,800. You're only paying $599 for my research class. Look at that savings, and you're getting individualized instruction. You're having the ability to talk to me and ask me any questions that you have about our history. You learn, in a sense, how to do research methods. Many of the people who've joined my class, they've also, in a sense, written books. They've written books, they've written articles, and this is wonderful. So again, you can go to Gumroad, OMEG98 or Clyde Winters, and join my class. My research class is going to be Tuesdays, every Tuesday at, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. We're going to be engaged in Black history studies, and this will give you a chance to ask me questions you've always had about our history, you've always had about how to do research. So join my research class. My research class is Tuesday at 7 p.m. And the class will last for 2 hours, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. And this class will take place over the next 15 weeks. 15 weeks, 2 hours a day. What is this? Let's see. This guy says, Bobby, you may have covered this already, but what is the connection between Ethiopia, Canada, and the Americas? Well, the thing about Ethiopia, Canada, and the Americas, it's not too much of the influence. The Egyptians, we know about the cocaine mummy, so we know that the Egyptians had some sort of interaction with the Americas, but there's not that much evidence of the Egyptians here. They did find a site out in the Rocky Mountains. What is it, Death Valley or somewhere out there? And they said they found some Egyptian monuments, and they found some statues in the pose of Buddha. So we do know, in a sense, this isn't surprising. That's not surprising. It's not surprising because many ancient Egyptians and many people in the Meroitic civilization believed in Buddhism. You didn't know that, did you? In fact, most of the Buddhist scholarship, began in the Nile Valley and was taken into India. Get my book. That's what my book. I talk about that in my book. And I talk about that in my book. The Nile Valley history and the Rig Veda, and there I talk a lot about these influence and stuff. So if you're really interested in this whole relationship, check it out. But it's so much that we need to do. It's so much that is so important to done. But see, I'm waiting for people like you, like Curtis Penn. When he showed me what was written on the Sphinx, I could have took that information. I could have in a sense just said, hey, this is what's written on the side of the Sphinx. This is what it says. And I could have left it like that, but I didn't leave it like that. I say Curtis Penn told me this. Curtis Penn shared this knowledge with me. And I want to share this knowledge with you. Because see, it's time that we stop. It's time that we stop trying to act like we're the only ones that know things. It's time that we stop, get information from other people. And when we share it, instead of in a sense saying, I got this from this person or that person, that's very important. Curtis Penn, he says, sure, Curtis. Penn said, you added to it. Yeah, I added to it. But the reason that I could add to it is because the fact is that, we both worked together. We both did it. Yes, we both did it. But the thing is, this is that everything has a genesis. Like a lot, like a lot of people, they like to say, oh, they did everything on their own. No, 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 no. Like a lot of times, you see a lot of women. They say they started business on their own. When a lot of times they got a husband that is working, so they can take that side money and invest that in a business. Because they husband or their boyfriend is paying the rent, paying the other bills. But again, the sense is that, let me explain to you. Let me explain to you. It's very important to remember is that we work better as a unit. We work better when we praise and respect our fellow researchers. You see, and so when Curtis Penn gave me that information about what was written on the Sphinx, it was so very important because it added knowledge. It explained why, in a sense, you didn't find a skeleton. You didn't find skeletons in the pyramids and all that type of stuff. But see, there's so much knowledge that we need to do, and that's why I come to you every week. I come to you every week on Thursday with these Black History Gems to let you know aspects of our history. But I hope that you too, I hope that you can share with me. You can share with me, in a sense, the ability to do this research by joining, yes, by joining my Patreon. By joining my Patreon, you're providing me with the funds to be able, in a sense, to do the research, publish the research, in books and articles, and have the access to the latest research. Because, the European does not, in a sense, do research and let us so that everybody can see it. He wants to keep that among his own little clique. He wants to keep that information, in a sense, to for himself, And like Karen Van Jen says, we should always ask for help and acknowledge it. True, because there's nothing wrong. Hell, even when you was a baby, your mom had to help you, your dad had to help you, your aunties had to help you. Listen, when we're born, we're connected to our moms. You see, and you had to cut that umbilical cord. You had to cut that umbilical cord, and by cutting that umbilical cord, you're able, in a sense, to do things. But you're joined, and it's what does Sister Shanice say? Teamwork makes the dream work. Girl, why you got to show your use of words? Why do you have to show how eloquent you are? Why? But thank you. But like Shanice says, teamwork makes the dream work. That is the truth. That's the truth. Now, Shanice, don't be surprised. Don't be surprised if you see that written on Facebook by somebody. It may be me, but hey, I'm going to acknowledge where I got that idea from, because teamwork does make the dream work. What is this? Let me see. Doom. Thank you. Love. Boom. Any truth to Giovanni Verrazzano's writing that said the Carolinians looked Ethiopian after the expedition? Well, Ethiopian was just another word for black back in the day. So they looked like black people. He didn't necessarily mean Ethiopian like people from Ethiopia, the country Ethiopia. He was just using that to say how they were described as black people. That's just another thing to know. Dorvell said, there's nothing new under the sun. The collective knowledge have always been there. You may have just recovered what was lost. Of course, the knowledge is there, but again, in a sense, that's why I'll never forget Morgan. Morgan was my professor. He was my advisor when I was working on my PhD. And Morgan said, when I was about to get my PhD, Morgan said, what are you as a researcher? How will you be described as a researcher? And I said, Morgan, that I'm a falsificationist. He said, okay, so you're a falsificationist. What is a falsificationist? A falsificationist is a person, in a sense, who checks on the idea, who develops an idea, and he tries to either confirm or disconfirm a theory. And that's what I'm about. I'm about looking at our history, and I'm trying to confirm what was happening, and then what was falsehood, I try to disconfirm it. But the point is this, is that we work together. Nobody does anything on their own. Everybody needs help, And Karen Van Zen, She says, Sister Shanice knows. Yes, Shanice knows. Shanice knows better than anybody because Shanice been out there in them streets for years. You know, Shanice is a wonderful woman. What Shanice used to do is when she was, before she's in Africa now, but when she goes home, when she goes back to London, back and forth, a lot of times in a sense, she tries to help the youth to learn things. She tries to make sure that they have a grounding. She did work in the streets. This sister's been working for years. She's got these radio programs. She's kind of in a sense, she's got her videos. She's taking a little time away from some of her work now to kind of rest up. But Shanice is a rider. Shanice is a sister in a sense who's out there to spread the truth, who's out there to share the truth. Again, as I said earlier, I began my research class again. You can join my research class. The research class is every Tuesday from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. You can go to gumroad.com and you can sign up for my research course. The research course is $599, but the research course will last for 15 weeks. Yes, the research course lasts for 15 weeks. Each class is 2 hours. You'll get the opportunity, in a sense, to learn how to do research and then ask me some of the questions that you have in relationship to Black history that you'd like to see answered. Maybe I can answer those questions. And if I can't answer those questions, I'll try to show you how that you can answer those questions or find out the answers for yourself. Again, you guys have a good evening, and thank you for joining me. Thank you, in a sense, for sharing your comments in the chat, because see, these comments are important because see, they help us to know what's going on. They help us, in a sense, to be able to spread the word and spread the knowledge. But the most important thing is this: is that if you're not going to speak up, support the ones who do.
If you're not going to speak up, support the ones who do. If you're not going to speak up, support the ones who do. If you're not going to speak up, support the ones who do. If you're not going to speak up, support the ones who do. Vampires, they prey on your fears and stay away. Vampires, they prey on your fears, control your honesty. Don't let them take your energy. Don't let them take control your honesty. I am you and control your honesty. Don't let them take your energy. Don't let them suck your energy. It's a distraction away from me. I am you and you are me. If you're not going to speak up, support the ones who do. If you're not going to speak up, support the ones who do. If you're not going to speak up, support the ones who do. If you're not going to speak up, support the ones who do. Nobody but yourself. Don't follow. I said nobody but yourself. Don't follow. Nobody but yourself. Don't follow yourself. Nobody. Yourself. Nobody but yourself.
The only thing that can save you is be one, be one, be one. The fight cage, you must stay black first.